Scrap that whole thing. Hey guys, we're recording now.
Yeah, we are. So I have a question for you.
Yeah, you have a question.
If
What's
you
up?
could change one thing in the world, one thing, whether it be history, the
Okay.
world in general, you'd have one opportunity to change exactly one thing to fix it. What would you do?
Give Animaniacs one more season.
That's a good one.
Yeah.
That's a really good one. Mine was
What's yours?
Put googly eyes on every snake's.
All the snakes?
Have all the snakes have googly eyes.
That's scary.
I find it funny.
You find that funny?
Yeah.
You know what I would put googly eyes on? I would put googly eyes on octopi.
On octopus?
Yes.
They already have googly eyes.
They don't have googly eyes. They have beaks.
Yeah, but they also have weird eyes. But no, just imagine like the scene in Raiders of the Lost Ark, Raiders of the Lost Ark, where Jones falls down to the snake pit.
Yeah.
And he just goes, "Snakes. I hate snakes," and cuts to the snakes, and they all have googly eyes.
Why is it gotta be googly snakes? Fear the Ink podcast.
Yeah, this episode.
This episode. I'm Julian.
I'm Rob, and we're professionals.
We're professionals. We're back again with another episode for you this week. It is By the Light of a Dying Fire by Baron von Ruthless 91. Got that right this time. Ha! Totally didn't botch a recording.
True, we did it.
A 9.1 at the esteemed creepypasta.com. Did you know there's a thing called crappypasta.com?
Crappy pasta?
And their logo is that star that says "You tried."
Oh, this is a good day, folks.
This is a good day. No, it's a good day. My back kind of hurts. It's a little cold outside.
Yeah, it's always cold here.
It's always cold here. Rob, you kick it off this time.
I kick it off this time?
Yeah, because you're the coolest.
Because I'm cool, man, cool.
You're the long man.
Ever since history began, mankind has been fascinated by fire. In the days of the caveman and hunters, the hunter's campfire was the only thing that protected our prehistoric ancestors from predators that prowled the dark. The scenario must have been terrifying as the caveman sat around their fire, knowing that death watched from the shadows. Something about this experience must have imprinted itself upon the human race back in those days. For even today, a campfire can bring a chill to most people's spine, given the right circumstances. And one of the favorite pastimes on campfire trips is to sit around the fire and tell scary stories. Many may find the tradition old-fashioned and cheesy, but it always felt a small thrill whenever the talk would turn the table of the dark and disturbing while I was in the Boy Scouts.
I feel like there should have been like a comma there.
Yeah, there should have. Or a period.
Yeah.
There is one night in particular that sticks in my memory, and when I tell people about it, they are surprised that I'm not in therapy.
Oh no, the Scoutmaster found his way into your tent.
What?
The Scoutmaster found his way into the tent.
Oh no.
Oh no. Sure is dark in here. I think I'm gonna scream.
I hope this kind of turns out to be like The Burning.
Oh yeah.
That was a good movie.
Crowley. No, what was the name of that guy?
Cropsey.
Cropsey. I have another movie. There's another movie based on Cropsey, other than the documentary called Cropsey. There's The Burning, and then there's Madman. I own both of these movies on Blu-ray.
Oh.
We should watch. You've seen The Burning.
I've seen Burning, and Burning's really great.
We should watch Madman.
Okay.
People sometimes ask me what the scariest thing I've ever experienced is. They're usually surprised when I tell them I have to think about it for a while. I may look not look. I'm not crazy, right?
I may look not like the sort of person.
I may not look like the sort of person that strange things happen to, but I have had far more than my fair of weirdness in my life. This is one such story. Alright, I'm going to take this whole chunk, and then you take the next two chunks.
Okay.
Because this is a long chunk. Okay.
This does look like a long chunk.
To begin with, I have to provide more background information. I'm the oldest son of a large family, and I live in the northeastern United States. I have had to fudge the names of people and geographic locations, although some people may be able to recognize the places and people I am referring to. One of the greatest joys of my high school life were my activities with the Boy Scouts. I got a burp. Oh God. Oh, that was as silent as possible. We're professionals.
That's why you just just go away from the mic and cover your face.
No.
Like what I've been doing.
No. I'm a professional. Just do it like a bull does and just have the burp escape through your nostrils. I'm an Eagle Scout and a Brotherhood member of the Order of the Arrow. Oh no, they all got stuck on that island for 5 years.
Oh no, they have to make decisions.
They have to make decisions, and Felicity's there. Scouting, Order of the Arrow, comma, Scouting's Honor Society, comma, alright. So I am no stranger to the outdoors. In fact, I so loved scouting that once I was old enough, I joined the staff of Six Hills Scout Camp as a summer camp counselor. Try to say Six Hills Scout Camp 5 times fast.
Six Hill Scout Camp, Six Hill Scout Camp, Six Hill Scout Camp, Six Hill Scout Camp, Six Hill Scout Camp,
Like most summer camp workers, I had coworkers who were among the most awesome people that I have ever met. Some who I wish I had never met, and a whole lot of people in between. The 2 people that I hung out with the most were my friends Topher and Joe. I actually ended up going to the same college as Topher, and our camping experiences were how we became friends, but that is another story. Topher was a very logical guy who loved studying the plants and animals of the wilderness and frequently expounded upon them at length, while Joe was more bookish and shy. The 3 of us were about the same age, and after our junior year of college, Joe found himself a girlfriend named Am who frequently visited camp.
Unfortunately, for every Topher and Joe, there was a Kyle.
Kyle.
No, not Kyle.
Damn it, Kyle.
Kyle was one of those people who made my skin crawl, and yet for some reason, most women found him irresistible. They just really want that Kyle dick.
Long, long man.
Kyle would frequently string along several lovesick girls at once, use them for what he wanted, probably to get cookies off the top shelf.
That's right. Kyle is height disadvantaged.
Drop them in the dirt and drop. Get what he wanted. Drop them in the dirt afterwards, and then brag about it.
Yo, I totally just body slammed that girl into the mud.
I totally picked her up, and I threw her on a copy of Dirt.
No, not my copies of Dirt.
Needless to say, no one could stand him, and the only reason he was on camp staff was because his uncle was camp director.
Oh, he directed the camp.
Oh man, that's even worse.
Nepotism.
The last person on camp staff to play into the story was Brett. Brett was a hitman.
It's Bert.
Oh, Bert?
Bert the Hitman Hart.
Bert the Hitman. I thought it said Brett.
Rubber Ducky. Wait, which one was the one with the rubber ducky? That was Ernie.
Yeah, that was Bert. Yeah, that was Ernie.
All right.
This is Ernie. I gotta stop eating cookies out of the bed. That's my Bert. That's the best I can get, Bert.
Well, you're getting crumbs everywhere, Bert.
Ernie, I can't be eating your crumbs. Bert ran the camp's health lodge and was primarily responsible for giving our medication to the campers that needed. So we have a medic.
Yeah.
We have a book guy.
We have a book guy. We have a mage.
We have a mage.
Uh-huh. We have
the only thing our story needs is we have a cleric. We need a barbarian. Can our main guy be...
Our main guy might be the barbarian.
The main guy might be a barbarian. But then again, we also need a ranger.
I feel like Kyle is a shitty bard.
He is a shitty bard.
He's like a chaotic evil bard.
Yeah, he seems like a real shitty bard. But we need a barbarian and possibly...
we don't know what Anne is.
We
We just know her name. We don't know anything about who she is or her personality.
I feel like she was Dragonborn.
Okay.
I'm not a Dragonborn. Yeah, she's a dragon person. Anyway. The fact that Bert was in charge of the health lodge was a source of great amusement to most of the campers, as he was very old and not in the best shape. Also, he's an old healer.
He's an old healer.
In fact, he often drove around the camp in a golf cart, as he couldn't walk long distances very well. In spite of this, Bert was actually a pretty cool guy. Once you get to know him. He was an Eagle Scout and had traveled around the world a good deal, although he was very
reticent
about why he traveled so much. If you go to him and talk, and if you go to him talking, he could tell some fascinating stories about the things he had done or legends that he had heard, such as a hidden temple that he once discovered.
Oh man, he was with the Blue Monkeys.
Yeah.
All right. Oh, the dialogue's kicking in.
Coming up soon.
That's
Dialogue.
right. I don't know how we're going to split this up. We'll figure this out.
We'll find something.
As the last week of summer camp drew to a close that year, there was a sense of melancholy among the staff members. As much of the kids had driven us crazy, we would miss them. The last of the scout troops had left that morning, and Joe, Ann, Topher, and I were sitting around a campfire as the last of the evening light faded. As usual, the talk turned to scary stories, but we found that we had run most of the classic ones already. The tales of Hook Hand, Don't Turn Off the Light, and The Licked Hand, I know that story, had already been told, and we were running short of ideas. It was Anne who finally came up with a solution.
Yeah, I forgot the story of Dickless Joe.
Oh no, watch out. Oh no, is she gonna kill her boyfriend?
No.
Her boyfriend's name was Joe.
Oh, I thought she was dating Topher.
No, Topher is Venom in Spider-Man 3. Hey, listen, she said. Why don't we tell each other the scariest true story that we know? Here we go with Baron von Ruthless 91 and that Aztec idol again, said Topher. Oh yeah, because he's telling the story.
Wait, who's telling the story?
Baron von Ruthless 91.
Is our main character really Baron von Ruthless 91?
Well, he's doing this. He's telling the story like it's like a story he's telling. He's like, I don't want to give real names. People do this on Reddit all the time where they're like, hey.
Yeah, but your username, really?
Yeah. People do that all the time.
So you just go to a campsite and everyone's like, hey, Baron von Ruthless 91.
No, in real life, they use his name. They're censoring their real name, so they're using their screen name.
You could just put a fake name in general.
No, but we already know Baron von Ruthless 91 is telling the story.
Just put the name David in, you're fine.
No.
You gotta really put your username, like...
He's very... David von Ruthless, the 91st.
See, that's a little bit better than Baron von Ruthless 91.
He's proud of his...
It's up there with, like, hi. It's like, hey, it's Apathy 420.
He's proud of where he got in this world. He's a baron. He got a castle and shit. And also, it's XX Apathy 420 XX. Thank you very much. Here we go with David von Ruthless the 91st and the Aztec idol again, said Topher. Don't even joke about that, I replied. That is a long story which I am not going into right now. Please look at my other stories on creepypasta.com. I'll go first, volunteered Anne. Have you guys heard about those murders that happened up on the Mid-State Trail a few miles from here? Oh, Anne, 0 to 100 Anne, as she's called.
Anne, who just knows every murder in the world, Anne.
She's a murder maniac.
She knows every murder that happens, including the one she's going to commit.
That's right. She's got a death note, but it's a little more manual. It's more like a death journal. We agreed that the campers had spoken of little else for the past couple of weeks. All right, Rob, you get this up until that stupid ad.
Well, continued Anne, you guys don't know the full story. The cops are treating it as a homicide because one of the guys was tied to the tree before he was killed. The strange thing is that the other man and woman who were with him were practically torn to pieces. They found parts of them up to a mile away from where they were killed.
You're starting to sound like Marge Simpson.
Oh, Homer! What type of man would do something like that? They also say some other hikers and on the trail have been hearing strange sounds at night.
I can hear your voice just struggling.
I'm trying, man. I'm trying. Joe's the bookworm, right?
I guess, yeah.
Probably a coyote or a fox, suggested Joe. They make pretty weird sounds sometimes. I don't like this. Not like professional. Not like this. They don't," said Anne. I'm gonna give up on Anne. That's how I found out about all this stuff. My dad is a zoologist, and they brought him a recording of the sounds the hikers heard on the trail. He said it definitely wasn't any animal he had ever heard. After all, I'm a zoologist,
That's
so I
right.
know every animal
There's
sound.
2 O's in zoologist. Wait, there's 3. God damn it.
The strange thing is, if so, the strange thing is this:
Uh-huh.
if some kind of animal killed those 3 people, how did that one guy end up tied to a tree before the bear or whoever it was disemboweled him?
It was Spider-Man.
I'm guessing the bears got smart.
No, the bear's got opposable thumbs, bro.
This bear is smart. He knows how rope works. Soon he'll know how gun and car works, and then we are just done.
The thought was unsettling. We sat in an uncomfortable silence for several minutes, and we nearly had a heart attack when a twig snapped in the night. Oh, it snapped and killed its family.
It's just now imagining a tree just like, I can't take it anymore. I'm made of wood. I'm just on the ground. I can't take this anymore.
There was a short hopping sound, and the antlers of a large deer poked over the top of a bush. We breathed a sigh of relief when we saw the antlers. The deer was just as scared of us as we were of it, and after a minute we heard it move away through the bush. "You know," said Topher, "for some reason that reminds me of something that happened to me a little while ago." Topher turned to me. "Do you remember that weird guy at the Order of the Arrow ordeal?" "Vaguely," I replied. "I remember you talking about him, although I never actually saw him." All right, you take this chunk.
This is Topher, right?
Yeah.
That's right. You didn't actually see him because we were on different working crews. Anyhow, we were at our Order of the Arrow ordeal. Topher turned to Anne. It's kind of an initiation ceremony where we spend the weekend working. We weren't supposed to talk unless absolutely necessary. To make a long story short, there was this strange guy who showed up at my work crew and just watched us. Since we couldn't talk, we couldn't ask him who he was. Why couldn't you talk? Who he was or what he was doing there? He just stood there in the trees by where we were working and looked at us. It was really creepy. I had to run back to the dining hall at one point to use the restroom, and he actually followed me for a little while until I ran into one of the scoutmasters. I probably should have told someone about the guy, but I thought I would get in trouble for talking, because talking's not allowed.
Yeah. No, not
when you're working, because when you go to a job, just you the minute you talk, they cut your fingers off.
That's right. Apparently, Topher works for the Yakuza.
I'm guessing, yeah. This Yakuza clan works in the woods.
Yeah, take these next 2 chunks. I want this whole ordeal.
Well, that's a little creepy, admitted Joe. I probably would have considered it, but the scariest thing ever happening to me, though, consider being this, yeah. You didn't see the guy, said Topher. It was the way he looked at you. He looked at you the way a snake would watch a rat before eating it. Constantly licking his lips and just staring at you. The reason I thought of this story just now because of those noises that Anne mentioned, that night when we were walking back to the campfire, I remember hearing some kind of weird animal. It sounded like a cross between a lion and a hyena. Is that what those hikers recorded on the trail?
Rob, you do a lion sound. Put your head away from the mic. Make a lion sound. I'll make a hyena sound. Ready? 1, 2, 3. Okay. We are not stoned. I promise you, we are sober.
I'm not even drinking.
Yeah, right.
We're not even drinking alcohol. This professionalism.
Yeah. All right. Now, I'm not sure, replied Anne. The sound my dad heard really gave him the creeps. He wouldn't let me listen to it. It was a Kid Rock album, wasn't it?
Probably was.
It was probably
just play it as I am American Badass. Watch me get.
He is Michigan's #1 son. At this point, there was another sound in the forest. This one was unfortunately all too familiar to the four of us. It was the unmistakable sound of Kyle's voice, followed by a feminine giggle from whoever was with him. A minute later, Kyle stepped into the firelight with a dark-haired girl who was clearly drunk, leaning against his shoulder. I'm gonna take this whole chunk.
Yeah, okay.
Well, hello, everybody! Exclaimed Kyle in a voice that was just a little bit too loud.
Hi, Kyle.
Hi, Kyle. Welcome to your Sexaholics Anonymous meeting. I was fairly sure that he had been drinking as well. I hope I'm not interrupting anything. When he said this, Kyle made sure to leer at Joe and Anne. Anne narrowed her eyes angrily and looked as if she was going to reply with a snappy retort until Joe placed his arm on her shoulder. After a second, she relaxed. Kyle had spent the previous summer trying to seduce Anne to no avail. Then, at the very end of last summer, Anne's little brother, Tyler, had died in an accident. Whoa!
Wow,
Whoa!
yeah, 0 to 100 Anne.
0 to 100 Anne. Okay. He had been 2 years younger than us and had worshipped the ground that Joe had walked on. He had been at camp with us and had been one of the kindest souls that I had ever met. He had gone out on a walk late one night and had fallen down a ravine where he broke his neck to the point where he was almost decapitated.
Jesus!
I still remember seeing the paramedics take out his body the next morning. The strangest thing about the situation was that the almost vivid thing in my memory was that the Captain America t-shirt that Tyler had been wearing. The shirt had been torn up and covered in blood, and the image still haunts my dreams. In the aftermath of the tragedy, it was rumored that Kyle had taken advantage of Anne's emotional state for his own purposes, although we never dared to ask if this was true. Anne had only just started to recover a couple of months previously, when she had started dating Joe, and every lecherous look that Kyle gave her was like a slap in the face.
Okay, fuck Kyle.
Yeah, fuck Kyle. Hey, Kyle.
I hope the killer comes for him.
Hey, Kyle, fuck you. You take this big chunk until that next big chunk.
So stop at Joe wins.
Yeah, stop at Joe wins. All you, man. Go.
What are you all up to? Kyle asked, pretending not to notice the death glares he was giving him. Oh, and by the way, this is Whitney. Just so you know, this is Whitney, guys.
Hi, Whitney.
He gestured to the girl hanging onto his shoulder. Clearly can't look straight and is just passed out at this point.
Yeah.
She was hiking along the trail and got lost. I offered to put her up for the night until she can get her bearings. After all, this is a murderer. After all, there is a murderer on the loose. Whitney giggled again, and the rest of us tried not to visibly cringe.
Oi, Kayo-chan. Hey, wait. In my head, Whitney's just an anime girl. She's just like.
I'm imagining Whitney's just a CPR dummy at this point.
The killer's gonna cut her face off.
I'm imagining at this point, Kyle slept with every woman. That the only thing left now is the CPR dummy.
He's one of those guys who's just like, I've done everything. Now it's anything with a hole.
It's like, wow, I've done everything in like 2 days. What's there left for me to do? I guess I just gotta start doing weird shit at this point.
Oh, Whitney.
Oh, Whitney. We were kind of telling each other scary stories about things that have happened to us, Joe said quietly. I guess it's my turn now. Kyle let off a harsh guffaw.
Guffaw. What's that sound like?
Guffaw.
It's like a Pokemon. Guffaw.
Is this going to be about poor baby Tyler again? Fucking Kyle.
Fucking Kyle.
He jeered. At this point, even I started to stand up to show Kyle. Even I started to stand up to show Kyle exactly what I thought of him. Thankfully, for my well-being, Kyle was pale and scrawny, but surprisingly strong. Topher stopped me. He's not worth it, he said quietly. What is Kyle talking about? Asked Anne. Did something happen between you and Tyler?
Joe winced. It was clear that he had not been planning on telling this particular story. It's kind of complicated, he began. The thing is, I suffer from something called sleep paralysis. It's when you wake up from a dream and are conscious, but you can't move. Sometimes you also see strange hallucinations. The most often hallucinations for me are long-fingered shadows would weigh too many teeth. I would wake up at 3 in the morning and not be able to move. After a few minutes, I would hear my closet door open or something move under my bed, and then the shadow creatures would appear. Sometimes they would actually touch me. Even though I know they aren't real, I can still feel them brushing against my face or sitting on my chest. I had one of these episodes the night Tyler died. I woke up but couldn't move or talk. I saw Tyler sit up in bed. I saw him look at his phone and then go outside. He must have gotten a text message or something. The point is that I saw a bunch of shadow creatures follow him outside. I know it doesn't make sense, but there was no way I could have warned him. I just feel like I could have stopped his accident, and I couldn't.
Dun, dun,
Dun dun dun. You keep going till no one knows.
By this point in the story, there were tears streaming down both Joe and Anne's faces. Anne gently put her arms around her boyfriend's shoulders, and the two of them quietly wept. Excuse me. The silence lasted for another minute before Kyle interrupted again.
Jesus.
Well, he said, that is all well and fine, but I have a real story to tell you. It's about the time I got herpes. It is the tale of what really happened to Ron Grayson.
Dick Grayson's third cousin.
Kyle paused dramatically to let the word sink in as a flash of lightning happened behind him at the same time.
Every time you say Ron Grayson, it's like young Frankenstein, a horse whinnies in the background.
Ron Grayson had been a local lawyer 10 years previously who had one day vanished off the face of the earth. They found his car abandoned in a supermarket parking lot and his cell phone in the river a few miles away. But there was never a body found. The incident was one of our area's biggest mysteries, and even 10 years later, just about everybody had a theory about what had happened to him. The prevailing theory was that he had either committed suicide or ran aloof of some inner city mob boss. But there was no conclusive proof either way.
Why does every time your Kyle voice talks, I feel like he's going to ask me to like, favorite, and subscribe? Wait, is Kyle just Logan Paul?
Yeah, we'll just make Kyle Logan Paul.
I'm just imagining him as Logan Paul. All
yeah,
right.
I'm seeing him as Logan Paul now.
All right.
Like, pretty soon, he's just going to be, hey, I found a dead person.
This is a creepypasta story.
So there probably is a moment like, hey, I found a dead person.
No one knows what happened to him, I said. The man could have been abducted by aliens for all we know. Now it's my turn to do my Kyle voice.
All right, what's your Kyle voice? Okay, that's good Kyle voice. Just make him a monster sound voice.
Kyle smirked. That's what you think. See, this is the thing. Remember 2 years ago when I had to spend a couple of days in jail on those drug charges?
So he really is just Logan Paul.
He really is just Logan Paul. We remembered. The charges had eventually been dropped. My cellmate was this guy who worked for the mafia as a hired killer. He was there waiting for trial. We raised our eyes skeptically. I'm serious. This guy was a hardcore killer. He was a mess, though. Apparently there was this thing that went wrong a few years back. He and his partner were supposed to off this lawyer who was filing charges against his boss, so his boss sends my buddy and his partner to make the problem go away. The thing is, my buddy's old partner is like a cat. He likes to play with his food before he eats it. Anyhow, he convinces my buddy to kidnap this kid. They found some homeless kid up in Pittsburgh that no one would miss, and they bring him down here. They have this lawyer tied up in the woods, and they tell him they will let him go as long as he shoots the kid. Sure enough, this lawyer guy shoots the kid to save his skin. The problem is that the lawyer is a horrible shot, so this kid doesn't die right away. He starts screaming bloody murder, and then something in the forest starts screaming back. Oh, wait. No, I'm going to finish his story. We're going to pick you back up once again, all right?
Okay.
I didn't know his story continued. My buddy gets spooked, so he gets in the car and leaves his friend to finish the job. The thing is, his friend never comes back. My buddy goes up to the place they had the lawyer the next day, and there's nothing there. No lawyer, no kid, no psycho killer for hire, and no monster. Anyhow, that's how this guy told me the story. The next day, he hangs himself in his cell. I get out and I look up, and my disappearance is around the time This guy says this stuff happened, and I see that Ron Grayson disappeared around the same time. So there you have it. The lawyer was eaten by a monster. Maybe it was the same one that killed those hikers. Maybe it was Princess Peach. Who cares? Game theory.
So your Kyle is just Matt Pat?
Yeah, my Kyle's just Matt Pat.
Once again, there was a sound in the brushes, and we all jumped. Off in the distance, we heard a faint howl.
Wait, you know what I imagine is in the bushes?
What?
Ali G.
Like the Ali G?
Yeah. Booyakasha.
Check yourself before you wreck yourself.
Check yourself before you wreck yourself, bruv.
At the time, I figured that it was a coyote, but now I'm not so sure. A second later, a light shone through the tree branches, and there was a strange rumbling sound. We all let out a breath of relief when Bert's golf cart... I was calling Brett again, didn't I?
No, I'm just imagining this guy driving this golf cart around the corner. It's kind of funny in my head.
When Bert's golf cart came puttering along the bend in the trail, huffing and puffing as he had just run a marathon. Bert heaved himself out of the golf cart and sat down by the fire, reaching into his pocket and pulled out peppermint candy and tossed it to Kyle. Topher held out his hand for a candy as well, but Bert seemed not to see him.
What's your Bert voice?
Well, that's it, Bert sighed. I just finished a run through the camp and everything is more or less good shape. Although Troop 83 didn't leave a giant archway in the middle of their campsite for some reason. I don't know. They're a bunch of dumb shits. I guess that means we should be able to get to the road pretty early tomorrow then. Wrong voice. And I said, I'm looking forward to a few days rest before I head back to school for the semester. I think it's your turn to tell the scary story, Joe said to me, and so I began my tale. Kyle's story actually reminded me of something I began. I think I actually saw Ron Grayson at this very camp a year or so back. He's dead, interrupted Kyle. Didn't you hear my story?
Alright, this is all yours. Here we go.
Okay. Well, it must have been his ghost then, I continued. It was really weird at any rate. I was doing a night patrol of the camp last summer, and I thought I saw someone down at the trading post. I thought I caught a glimpse of him as he walked around the corner. I thought it was weird. And I didn't recognize him as one of the scoutmasters, so I decided to investigate a little bit more. I walked up onto the trading post porch, and there was this man standing in the corner looking out over the lake. There was a few scouts on the other side of the lake, and the man was watching them. We stood there like that for a while, him watching the scouts and me watching him. Then he turned around suddenly and saw me. Then I swear I am not making this up. He grew a giant pair of antlers, screeched at me, and took off into the forest. I thought about telling someone about this at the time, but I thought no one would believe me. The point is, I was reading the paper a few months ago and saw some news report about Ron Grayson. And they had a picture of him. I realized that he was the man I saw on the porch. Well, at least before he grew a pair of antlers and did his best Nazgul imitation in my face.
The ring wraiths. Lord of the Rings.
So is he just looking for the ring?
Yes.
So apparently we're in Mordor now.
That's right. Kyle is Sauron.
I actually have a picture of the article on my phone if you guys want to see it. I passed my phone around to the others in this group, and when it reached Topher, he went as white as a sheet.
Keep going until my turn.
What's wrong? I asked.
No.
Oh, Oh, okay. So I see my. You said keep going until my turn, but like, okay, so when's your turn? What's wrong? I asked. Nothing. He replied when he saw that none of us believed him. He reluctantly continued. It's just that lawyer looks an awful like that guy who was following me around in my story.
Oh, shit. My turn, called Whitney, still very much intoxicated.
Wow, the CPR dummy can talk.
That's right. No, it's actually just Kyle has his hand up its ass and he's just... I was hiking the Mid-State Trail last year, just like I am doing now, in fact. And one night, I tried some new... She cast a suspicious glance at Burton and continued in a quieter tone of voice. Stuff? I tried some new stuff.
Oh, like the movie.
That's right. Stuff. The stuff. It was marshmallows. It was like...
marshmallow ice cream.
Yeah. It gave me the biggest high of my life, but it also made me see some strange things.
Just say it.
So, anyhow, here I am in the middle of the woods, and I have to go take a crap.
This is a great story.
This is a great story. So I go off by myself and take care of business. Keep in mind during this entire thing, the trees are trying to tell me the meaning of life. Anyhow, I'm on my way back when I see Count Dracula fighting with Captain America on top of this hill. I realize that this is just the drugs, of course, but I still don't want them to see me. I can hear them yelling at each other. Captain was telling the Count to stay away from my sister or something like that. It was weird. Eventually, Count Dracula hits Captain America over the head with a stick and then throws him down the other side of the hill. At this point, I decide to get out of there, so I slip away. On my way back to the campsite, I see all kinds of crazy things. The trees started trying to attack me. These little goblins would laugh at me from behind the rocks. I think I also remember a bunch of bears and deer ballet dancing. It was a weird night. I'm tired. I think I'm going to go to sleep now. Plop. With that, Whitney lay down and began to snore.
She really is.
She really did just zonk out.
Kyle's like,
yeah. Captain Date Rape. None of us quite knew what to make of that story. Bert philosophically stared into the fire before tossing Kyle another peppermint candy. For some reason, Joe seemed particularly disturbed. Now it's your turn.
She saw...
Wait, who's talking?
I think this is Bert. She said she saw Captain America getting thrown down.
Oh, it's Joe.
Oh, this is Joe.
Yeah.
She said she saw Captain America getting thrown down a hill by a vampire. He mused. The image of a bloodstained T-shirt sprang into my mind. You don't think that... Oh, for crying out loud, yelled Kyle. He seemed to be very unnerved by the story as well. The look on his eyes resembled that of a frightened rabbit who just detected danger. You guys aren't talking about a load of bullshit, seriously, are you? He had ingested enough drugs to kill Charlie Sheen. Nothing she saw had any bias in what was really going on. Just really no way to defend herself. I mean...
She's out like a light.
Yeah, fuck this guy, Kyle.
Keep going until we will probably never know.
Okay. Are we sure that? Murmured Bert. There may have been a kernel of truth here in her story. Come on, Whitney, we're leaving, said roughly shaking Whitney awake. Not now, everyone. Whitney.
You got a Whitney voice?
Oh, I'm trying to think how good. I'm trying to think. Well, I'm trying to think how I can do Whitney Houston.
No, she's dead too.
Yeah, and
just do a drunk white girl voice.
Not now, Edward. I want to slay it. She replied, and then promptly went back to snoring. This response seemed to anger Kyle even more. Swearing at all of us, he stormed away from the fire and into the night. Did he really kill my brother? Asked Anne quietly.
Well, probably never know for sure, said Bert. Whitney probably don't recognize what she saw consciously. No jury in the world could convict based on something that may have been a drug hallucination. Although the fact that she just called Kyle Edward is telling. I saw Kyle and Tyler having a heated discussion the day before he died. I mentioned this fact to the police, but the coroner ruled the death an accident, and that was that. So he's just gonna get away with murder? Said Topher angrily. Where's the justice in that? Sometimes there's no justice in this life, replied Bert. Sometimes we have to wait for the next life for our reward, our punishment. In this case, however, I think the situation will take care of itself. It's getting late and I have a scary story to tell you as well before we go to bed. It's about the creature that was once called the Wendigo.
Yeah, let's do the Wendigo story.
Yeah, Bert, let's go.
Yeah, Bert. You want me to continue?
Yeah, you got this.
As Bert began his story, the fire seemed to die down, and a cold wind set a chill down our spine. Whitney let out a whimper in her sleep and curled up into a ball close to the coals of the fire. The shadows at the edges of the light seemed to stretch closer, and the insects and night birds fell silent as if they too were listening to Bert tell the story.
You tell the story. Here you go.
Native Americans would tell their children tales about the Wendigo. They sometimes called him a forest giant. The story goes that the Wendigo could change his shape so that no one could see him coming or killing him. The legend also goes that a man could become a Wendigo if he ever ate human flesh. That is how the old stories used to go. When I was a lot younger, I met a medicine man when I was doing some work on a reservation. He told me some more stories about these creatures. He said that a man didn't have to be a cannibal in order to be turned into a Wendigo anymore. Although that was still a good way to become one if anyone ever wanted such a thing. The man said that the Wendigo was in constant pain as a result of his curse. As the years went by, the pain would get worse and worse until it drove the Wendigo into a frenzy where it killed anything in its path. The medicine man said that there was only one way for the Wendigo to stop the pain, and that was for the Wendigo to attack someone who had been as wicked as it was. Someone with innocent blood in their hands, and turn them into a Wendigo. Then the pain would fade for a while, and eventually the original Wendigo would die after it had created a new Wendigo. It is very difficult to kill a Wendigo, although there are certain things that attract them or repel them. They don't like the light and the smell of garlic, for example, while fresh blood, peppermint, and the sound of young children will attract them, like moths to a flame. A few years after the Second World War, there was a little boy who claims that he saw a Wendigo. He had gone out on an overnight packing trip with his troop when he became very sick. One of the scoutmasters had to drive him back in the dark along with one of the other scouts because of his buddy system. Now, this scoutmaster was not a nice man. He had recently come to the United States and he claimed that he was Dutch. However, a lot of people who were actually German claimed to be Dutch in order to come to the United States. We were not that friendly towards Germans, seeing as we had just fought a war against them. The rumor is the scout troop was that this particularly adult leader was one of the Germans who had pretended to be Dutch. The rumor further went that not only was this man a German, but he had been a Nazi.
Oh, Nancy.
At any rate, the leader and the two boys were driving along the back roads towards the hospital when all of a sudden they see a man standing in the center of the road.
Ah!
Oh, that's a long one. The adult leader swerved the car to avoid the man and ended up crashing into a tree. One of the scouts was knocked unconscious in the crash, but the leader and the sixth scout were still all right. The leader gets out of the car and goes over to where the man is standing and starts to yell at him. The man doesn't say anything. He just stares at the leader and the two scouts. The sixth scout is back at the car. He managed to drag his friend out of the the wrecked vehicle while the scoutmaster had left him. At this point, the man in the robe grows a big pair of antlers and opens his mouth wide. The scout can see that all the man's teeth are at least 3 times the size of a normal man's teeth and are very sharp. The strange man jumps on the scoutmaster and begins to tear him apart before coming after the boys. Luckily, the one scout managed to find a large hollow log and pulled his friend inside before the monster could get to them. The Wendigo spent the rest of the night clawing at the log to get at the boys. Around dawn, it went back up the road and crouched over the body of the scoutmaster. The boy then swore that he saw the dead leader stand up and follow the monster into the woods. The sun came up, and a search party found the 2 scouts a few hours later. The little boy spent the rest of his life looking up information on all kinds of monsters and traveling the world to hear various stories about them so he could find out what happened to him that night.
That was really cool.
Yeah, that was good.
That was really cool.
That was really good.
Bert, it's awesome.
I like Bert.
All right. There was a long silence after Bert finished the story. Finally, Whitney let out a drunken giggle. Apparently, she had woken up partway through the story. The scary stories were supposed to be true stories that actually happened to us, she said. Sorry, said Bert after a slight pause. My mistake. Well, we should probably turn in, said Joe. We have a long day tomorrow. Sounds good to me, said Bert. He turned to Whitney. Do you have somewhere to stay tonight? I have a campsite a few miles up the trail, she responded. You know what, said Bert. You can sleep on the sofa in the health lodge. Something tells me that tonight isn't a good night to be out in the woods alone. Bert helped Whitney into the golf cart, and the two drove off down the trail. In the distance, there was a very faint sound that could have been a human scream that was suddenly silenced. Shortly afterwards, there was a strange call that sounded like a cross between a lion's roar and a hyena's laugh. Topher, Joe, and Anne and I decided to share a tent that last night. I had a funny feeling that we would never see Kyle again, and we didn't. Topher claims that it's probably because he ran away for fear of getting arrested for murder. I'm not so certain. The last night in the woods, I remember drifting off to sleep with dreams full of antlered men and peppermint candies. Oh, snap!
Yeah.
So Bert was just luring. That's why he kept feeding Kyle the little peppermints.
Oh.
He kept handing him peppermints.
I thought peppermint keeps it away.
No, it attracts it.
So Bert was like, fuck you, Kyle, you can die.
The whole night he was handing him peppermint candies.
You can die, Kyle. I hope you fucking die.
You're gonna die, Kyle. Bert, numero uno monster hunter. I like this. Well, here's the thing. I like 25% of this story.
Yeah. This story, it's like a weird mixed bag where it's like a good percentage of it is good.
No, not a good percentage of it is good.
What?
75% is terrible, and then Bert told his story.
Okay, I will say one thing I do like. It is kind of telling a story from each person.
Yeah.
Like it's like one person starts a story, then they add something to it, then they add something.
Yep.
I do like that aspect.
Yeah.
Because that's kind of how campfire stories go.
Yep.
Like it really felt like a good like someone was trying to make a good campfire story.
Mm-hmm.
But the problem is the good part was at the end.
The good part was at the end. It did a good job of giving us personalities for everyone who was there.
Yeah.
Not really for Anne.
Well, Anne was drunk. Well, no,
Whitney
Anne was just there.
Yeah, Anne was just there. Joe was kind of just there. Topher. Oh no, Joe did stuff. You know.
Yeah, he talked about his sleep paralysis.
Sleep paralysis. Topher was useless. Baron von. What's his name?
Baron
von Ruthless 91. David von Ruthless the 91st. Did stuff. Then there was that whole backstory with Ron Grayson. You know. Bert's awesome.
Yeah, Bert was awesome.
So how do you give me your ink blot rating for this here?
Ink blot rating.
Don't give me a number. What do you got? Reach in your soul and give me what you would rate this.
What would I rate this?
Give me.
I'm trying to think of a good book that I can compare this to.
Yeah.
I would give this a good.
Reach into that soul. Reach into the soul. reaching into the soul. Come on.
I want to say. Oh, I'm drawing a blank on this.
What are you thinking about? What book? The Giving Tree.
No. I'm trying to compare it to comics. Like, what's a good... I'm trying to think of like a good comic that's best representation, where it's like...
Your best bet is the actual Wendigo that Wolverine fights. I give this story a Wen out of Wendigo. Because all Wendigo says when he's fighting, he goes, Wendigo.
I'll give it X-Men the Arcade Beat 'em Up.
Really?
Well, that is a good arcade beat 'em up, but it is kind of dumb and cheesy at the same time.
Okay, then I give this an X-Men Mutant Academy out of X-Men Wolverine's Revenge.
And hey, Wendigo's in it.
No, I was going to say, well, out of Wolverine's Revenge. Wendigo's in it. You fight him in that cave.
Yeah, but he's also in the beat 'em up as well.
He is, isn't he?
Yeah.
I like
Wendigo!
I like that version of Wendigo better. I like Giant Monkey Man Wendigo.
I prefer Hellboy's Wendigo.
Oh yeah, me too.
But that's the thing. I think he's the best representation of Wendigo.
Yes.
And like stuff.
I also have you. I should lend you Hellboy Krampusnacht.
Krampusnacht,
which is where he fights.
Oh, he fights Krampus.
Well, he doesn't fight him. It's more like he meets Krampus, and Krampus tells him what he's all about, and then Krampus goes away. It's really weird. It's
hey,
really
I'm Krampus. I do this. See ya.
See ya. Woo!
Here's my business card.
He gets on a skateboard and he flies over.
He just gives him his business card. Subscribe to my channel.
Subscribe. Speaking of that, hey guys, we're on YouTube. Fear the Ink on YouTube. We also have a Facebook page, Fear the Ink Podcast on Facebook. We're trying to get on iTunes. We're working on that. Also, we don't have an Instagram. We have an email at feartheinkpodcast.com. feartheinkcast@gmail.com. Props to Varen Von Ruthless91 for this 9.1 on creepypasta.com by the light of a dying fire. And Rob, you got anything? Any recommendations? You got something for us, Rob?
Yes. Look forward to the Facebook page because I'm planning to write another monster idea. I've been writing ideas for monsters, just to kind of jumpstart people that have like, hey, here's an idea for a monster. If you want to take this and use it for a story, go right ahead. If you want to take it and make your own monster, go right ahead as well.
Give us art.
Give us art if you would like to. I'm willing to see if you have like, hey, I have an idea for what this monster looks like, and you want to show it. By all means.
You should give us an actual title for this thing. I'm thinking of like names for it.
I just have monster ideas.
Yeah, I have like Rob's Monster Maker. I don't know. I have that in my head. Monster Maker. Or just Amazing Island. Remember that game for GameCube, Amazing Island?
Not really.
Where you could draw your own monster and they'd follow you around.
No, I don't remember that.
Make terrible Lovecraftian abominations.
I feel like I've seen that game, just never played it.
I rented it from Blockbuster and I played with it for like 4 hours and I gave up because my chicken looked like its head was backwards. And I was like, oh. Then I brought it back and I rented Custom Robo instead. And I was happy.
Yeah, Custom Robo.
Custom Robo's dope. But, yeah. Tune in next time to your favorite Custom Robo podcast, Fear the Ink. We'll be here. I'm Rob. Wait, I'm Julian. I'm so tired.
Are you a Wendigo?
I am a Wendigo. I smell peppermint. I'm Julian.
I'm Rob.
And we'll see you next time, guys.
Bye.